You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
This makes my nipples hard.
Hey guys, welcome to our show. We're talking about things and stuff today. I'm starting the episode. This is the one, Anna. We're sticking with this one. I'm starting the episode. I started the episode. Today we're doing patches, bugs, demods, and bugs and patches. Fuck.
You don't even sound like a nerd anymore. You sound like a sports guy trying to sound like a nerd.
We're deep in the fifth. We're in the quarter of the fourth. I ruined the sports guy thing there. All right. Well, we are talking about some of the stuff I've said so far. I'm hosting it today. I'm starting it today, because Anna's going to do a lot of the talking. So I'm getting me out of the way now by telling you guys what's up. We're doing... This is Anna's special episode. She's really excited about it. I am too. We're both going to find out together what it's about, essentially. But she said it's about patches and mods and debugging and cheats. Yeah. Yeah?
Good job.
Sweet.
Yeah. No, it's totally. So I was away on the weekend and hanging out with my friend Roberta, and we got to talking about all the things that we've done to make video games more personalized over the years. And then it led into talking about games that would be buggy in the first place. And then I got to thinking about it, like the different ways that we deal with patches, for example, compared to back in the day. It's like back in the day, you either needed to get it from the developer or even you needed to buy an updated copy of the game itself. I mean, there was no internet. You couldn't just download it. So it's like sometimes, for example, me with Quest for Glory 4, I told you I'd bring that series up during this episode. Yeah. You get stuck with a game that just won't work until later, and you get a different version of it, and you're like, yay, I can play it now. So I don't know, it's been on my mind what we've done over the years to change the games, and then right up to like mods, because sometimes a game isn't what we want it to be, and even the developer doesn't do it. But then people can make the game what you want it to be. And then even now developers are working with people. Like I kind of think like maybe back in the 90s, I don't know if mods would have been as readily accepted. Like imagine a modding community coming in and saying, okay, you can now play Laura Bow, but instead it's with Larry, and we'll change the dialogue so it kind of gets sexy. And I imagine that like Sierra might have been like, no, you can't do that to RIP.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think it would have been. It's become part of gaming culture now. Like my familiarity with modding is all on the Strummer side of things, where there's like mod menus for Gorilla Tag and Geometry Dash and all these games where they're dependent on the mods to keep them like fresh and to put different spins on them and things like that. So it's kind of at the center of gaming now. And I think you're exactly right that back in the day it would have been looked at as like, I don't know, adding lines to a fine painting. Like why would you touch that with your pencil? That was a weird.
Yes,
but
that's actually really good. I really like that. But yeah, I mean, and it's kind of like, it's even in the name of like fan-made games. It's like something that's based within the world or towards the game, but something that changes it, or at least your idea of the world. And it's free. I mean, people aren't really charging for mods. Like I play Stardew Valley, and I've modded the hell out of that game. I can do all sorts of cool shit. And then we bring in my husband, who his game isn't modded, and then my son and I, we have ours in a mod menu. So like we're zipping around at like 10 times speed and getting all this cool shit, and he's walking around all like, I don't believe in mods, but why am I going so slow?
You bring up another good point with fan games, where I'm not sure the existence of fan games outside of the adventure genre. I know they do exist, but it seems like fan games are. See, I don't know if I'm right in saying this, but it seems like from the outside, fan games are dying a little bit because of mods. Like they've been. Mods kind of just took over, right? So it's like, well, why do a fan game when we can just modify the game?
Jeez, that's a really good point, because that's true. Because, for example, back to Stardew Valley again, because it's the one I'm more familiar with, but Stardew Valley Expanded is like a whole new game. Different plot lines, different places to go, different people in the town, different characters. Like it is literally a whole new Stardew Valley game within Stardew Valley. And you're right, before mods, which I don't know, for me personally, like back in 2009, it was still kind of like a patch. Like if I wanted to fix a game or do something with a game, it was a patch. And then all of a sudden, sometime after 2010, it was a mod, and you had to open up all these different menus and download programs like SMAPI and do all this other, and it got so complicated. And I remember for years being like, screw mods, I just want patches again.
Right. Because they are trying on the patience. Like Strum wants everything modded all the time because you always see some mods on YouTube. So it's like I always have to mod. I mean, even down to Minecraft, like would be a good one to start off. Or for any listeners that are familiar with VR, not only Gorilla Tag but Bone Lab, things like that. And it's like there's so many of these games. Like you said, they have mod EXEs, like a whole separate little side program that like injects. I guess essentially patches it for you, but then you pull up like a mod menu within the game, and it's a lot. It's a fresh set of instructions for every game because every game handles mods in a different way, and it's like it's an hour. It's a good hour every game.
It is. It's stressful installing mods. Like I had my son help me because I said to him, I really want a mod, but I don't know how. So I said to him, you have to learn how to mod because you're young and your brain is like elastic or whatever. So you go learn how to mod, and then you come back and you teach mama how to mod. Right. So that's what he did. He went off and he just come back and teach mama. So he went off and he did that, and then he came back and he taught me how to mod, and now I'm all up in it. I think this shit is great. And as I said, I went overboard, and I've got like all these crazy mods running, and then you have to update them all the time, and it becomes like it's a whole thing. But now I can't imagine playing some of these games without them.
Right. Okay. Let's go in that direction. So, what are some like essential mods for you? The games that you couldn't play without a mod.
Oh, probably just actually Stardew Valley and The Sims, games like that. Games where, or like, okay, for example, Heroes of Might and Magic, but it's like a HOTA, right? Horns of the Abyss, and it's like. I don't know if you'd even call it a mod or not. It's like an alternative version of the game that's better and fancier. But I'd call it a mod, I guess.
I didn't know the acronym or the game.
It's got like prettier graphics and sort of ease of use for menus, and it's kind of better with multiplayer. It handles some of the AI a little bit better, and there's even new factions. I think they brought in just like an even newer one lately, because I know you're all about the factions.
Sure. I possibly am. Yeah.
But in Stardew Valley, I like stuff. I like use Sith to cultivate or pick crops. I like the tractor mod. I like the ones where it makes you walk fast. I like the CBJ's cheat menu where you can just turn all the settings on and off that you're looking for. Now, here's the one I've been using recently that's my most favorite, is one that every single character, if you have something that they love in your inventory, it'll flash an icon above their head that tells you that you're holding it. So, for example, if you have like a flower and a honeysuckle or something and somebody else really wants it, that'll just keep flashing the thing above their head over and over so you know to give it to them, which is great for me because I've played it like hundreds and hundreds of hours, and I've never got married, and I've never made friends because I don't care about people. I have enough people in real life. So this time on my multiplayer with the family, I'm focusing on entirely the social game. So that mod is imperative.
Okay. No, that's a good example of when it's imperative, because sometimes the mods are more imperative because once you experience the game with that freedom, let's say, like you mentioned walk speed earlier, just for an easy example.
Or pausing time.
Then you kind of just can't go back because it was like, well... And then sometimes it kind of ruins the game in a sense. Like for anybody who's cheated, this isn't a mod, but for the sake of making a point, for anybody that's cheated too quickly in Grand Theft Auto, and it's like, well, I don't want to go back to getting arrested. I don't want to go back to having consequences for my actions. I'd rather like the pandemonium.
It's kind of like, I like to use them after you played a game thoroughly without mods first. Like, you know, You've done everything you can do, and now you want to keep playing the game, but you're kind of bored of it. So, okay, like, for example, I talked about Stardew Valley Expanded. So, Concerned Ape actually brought in the people that did the official Stardew Valley Expanded, and he helped with the update itself for the update of the game to make sure that the update for the game, the big 1.6 that we've all been waiting for, and of course has been here for the last month and a half, and has been amazing, obviously.
Totally.
But he worked with the modder of Expanded because it's so important. Like, Eric Barone has always been huge in the modding community, and just, Eric is my man. I tell you what, he is. Anyway, it's just working hand in hand to make sure that the game is the best game possible, regardless of whether it makes you more money or doesn't make you more money. And even putting the finances aside entirely is kind of a really cool way to look at it. Even bigger companies like EA, they work with the Sims very closely to make sure that the mods continue to work, and then they update them, and it's a back and forth game. You wouldn't think that at big companies, but it's true. It's out there.
Very cool. Okay.
I mean, mods kind of, okay, so if we go back further, back behind mods, back behind cheats to the original, I mean, I don't know, patches are kind of like, okay, so for example, a developer would put out a game, and the game wouldn't be quite ready yet. And then his boss would be like, you need to have this game out by November, otherwise people won't be able to get it for Christmas. And it's like, nowadays...
Yeah.
Oh, totally his boss. But nowadays you do that and you'd be like, fine, I'll release the game because we'll just patch it, right? You've been patching Phantom Fellows, right? It's out, but you're patching it. People get the patch. Everybody's happy. But back in the olden days, like, they were literally a floppy, and you had to, like, either write the company to get a patch, or, as I said in the beginning of the episode, buy a whole brand new $60 box version of the game with a newer version on it, because the version that you have is so absolutely buggy that you can't play it anymore. And that's, you know, and a lot of people say, well, you just couldn't patch. You could, like I said, you literally could. And there are games you buy. I've got a few examples that none of you can see because it's an audio podcast of games like Doom, for example, that have patch discs in them that are just, you know what, here's the updated version, here's your registered disc, and here's your registered patch disc, because it was also a big deal because they didn't want just anybody throwing a patch onto the game. Not that anybody could just make a patch, but really affect your enjoyment of a game.
You bring up a good question that I'm not sure either of us can answer. You have a better chance of being able to answer because of Quest for Glory 4. But when there was patches for let's say adventure games in the 90s, did you? Yeah, I guess they. I get, and it's a stupid question as I'm beginning to say it out loud, because it's not like you're purchasing it. They don't have any direct record of the buyer, so there's no way they could send you the patch. You would have to go to Babbage's or whatever and be like, this game is super wonky. Is there any patches out? And then would the stores order the disc in for you, or would you write Sierra directly, or both?
You'd write Sierra directly, I think, and just get the patch from them, unless the store, unless it was a really big known patch. But I think, I wonder, and maybe somebody that's listening might know, if companies would ever send a patch disc out to distributors.
Right, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Have them put in the boxes.
Something like Quest for Glory 4, where it was a problem, right? It less of like, I might even argue like Space Quest 6 too, where there's like just these game-breaking bugs that have, let's say, at least a 50% chance of wrecking someone's experience. Like, would they send each distributor 25 patch discs just so they had them on hand?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wonder if they were that considerate. Now, okay, a lot of patches were just simply sent out with PC Gamer Magazine.
Right, good point.
So, yeah, they send it out with, they'd be right on the discs, and, you know, I think I even have a list of them somewhere there. But yeah, that's what they do. So they'd be like, okay, here's a bunch of your demos, here's the games you're going to play, but also here's a patch for whatever the current major games are right now.
But that wouldn't have been introduced until the CD-ROM era, correct? Which I guess, that's more early 90s than I tend to think of. But
yeah.
But at what point did PC Gamer actually start shipping with CD-ROMs? Because that wouldn't have been like 92, 93. They would have waited a few years for the prices to come down and for it to be more consumer-friendly. So maybe like 96 onwards-ish?
Yeah, I'd say something like that. Yeah, and before that, you had to get discs. Like, I have some games, too, that have, like, expanded versions or patched versions that are just included in the box. And, like, so obviously whoever had it before me probably wrote away to the company to get them.
Right.
Because in most of the cases with me, if I had like my Quest for Glory version, I just had to wait. And then a few years later, a good friend of mine just gave me a random CD copy and I was able to play it. And it wasn't until the internet came that I was able to learn about all these patches. And then, of course, on the other side of patches, you've got fan-made patches. These are patches that are not even made by the game company at all. Like, for example, Ash Lancer has done some beautiful patchwork on initially Quest for Glory 4 and then later on Quest for Glory 3, where they've actually added dialogue back in that was removed from the game. All of the death messages are, with voice acting now, and more scenes and just stuff that was missing right from the beginning, because Ash Lancer went deep in the source code and found everything there wasn't enough space on the CD for it initially, and was able to just put it all in there, and gets rid of a bunch of the dead ends and just generally makes a better gameplay experience. So here's a patch that isn't necessary, and the games are still playable, but people are making these games better using original content, and that's a cool kind of patching.
Yeah, okay, I have something to say on that, and I'll real quickly backtrack and say my favorite patch that I guess have or am aware of is the Space Quest 6 patch, because it's really cool to have a Space Quest 6 floppy disk. Because that was a CD-ROM only game, so if you get the patch for it, it's just, I don't know, it's just something nerdily cool about, like, I have a Space Quest 6 floppy disk. Granted, it's just a patch, but okay, but to your point, so the person who comes to my mind when it comes to when it comes to patching games and improving them, usually just using the source code, if not other things like the clock speed issues and things like this, would be New Rising Sun. And I have to shout that out because I feel like a lot of our listeners would be aware of New Rising Sun, because he's all over Sierra Help. Like, if you've at any point in the past, especially before Scum became so bloody competent, you would go to Sierra Help and usually there'd be a patch, especially if you're dealing with, like, I don't know, the mall in Space Quest 4, let's say, and it was always New Rising Sun. It seemed like he had his. I really wonder who he really or she really is. Like, if they're in the community in any sort of way, or like, what became of like a VH1 behind the music on New Rising Sun? What became of them?
Yeah.
Because I used the crap out of their patches. They would do really cool things, like take kind of what you were describing was Ash Lancer. Taking sometimes the best of both worlds, where like sometimes a floppy would have something oddly handy, or the floppy would have done something actually better than the CD did, and kind of just merge the two. Maybe it's just arrow controls, right? Like you could do arrow controls in the floppy versions of Sierra games, but not in the CD-ROM version. Then the arrow just moved the cursor around the screen, and oftentimes it would, those patches would just take the best bits of both versions and mash them together, on top of, like you said, resurrecting old forgotten or old never used lines and fixing clock speed issues, and just all around, like, if you could get 10 years of like R&D on a game and revisit it and give it one ultimate patch, that's essentially what the New Rising Sun patches were.
Ooh, that's kind of, I guess, it's almost like what Scum VM is doing on a daily basis. They are literally patching all of our games and making them super playable and super intuitive within a framework structure that we're just like click and go. But they're like when we had Eugene on the show, for example, like they are deep diving, patching this shit from the ground up. Like they're essentially rewriting some of these games.
It's a brilliant point. In the absence of these New Rising Sun and Ash Lancer patches, like you basically just have Scum now, where people like Sluicebox are finding, and obviously fans and things like that too are finding little speedrunners too. I'm sure to a large degree they're great at finding this kind of stuff, where it'd be like, hey, there's a bunch of stuff in the code here that's not accidentally. Oftentimes there's things commented out that you can't even make sense of why they were excluded. In other words, like, it was in the game and it was commented out, so therefore it's not a resource issue. There was room for it on the disk because it made it, but it just got blocked out of the game for some reason. And maybe that's a result of having a large team of people working on a game and just a little miscommunication. But point being, to emphasize your point, I think that's exactly right, that the Scum VM team themselves are basically the patchers nowadays, because they are doing all the same stuff, making everything better, fixing the actual issues, and then bringing things back from the dead, and giving you a neat little option, like I was given in Curse of Monkey Island, where it's like, by default the box isn't ticked, but you can tick a box saying, yeah, give me the stuff you found in there. that you uncommented out. Give me the extended, material that you guys discovered and put back in the game.
Yeah, I want all of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, and no, it's true. I'm a game slut or a big box slut. If you ask a few people, they'd say that too. So, no, totally fine. But yeah, Quest for Glory 2 had this like random import patch to fix character transfer problems. There was this one where you'd bring in your hero, but they'd automatically turn into a fighter. And I remember coming across that for whatever reason. I kept bringing them in, and it kept like auto changing them back to fighters. And I'm like, no, I'm a thief, damn it. And yeah, in Quest for Glory 3, there was the infamous endlessly waving shaman. It was like a bug, and it just wouldn't stop, and game's all messed up. But just these little fun things. But yeah. And no, I guess you wouldn't really call that a patch. Because, okay, to me, I called it a patch. When I got Sims 2, I wanted nudity because I was annoyed that every single time I would do anything with my characters, like take a shower or go pee or have sex, they were fuzzed out. And I didn't want my characters fuzzed out. So I found this the original OG Sims patch back when it first came out. And, you installed it like as you would a patch. You literally downloaded it, dropped it in, and you're good to go because it's not a mod and it's super easy. And it's funny. It's actually still available and you can still use it now, but it makes everybody nude. Like the children are nude, the adults are nude, and everybody's got all the details. This is just like literally the whole house of everybody naked whenever they need to be naked, which is, it's all very natural and real. But you didn't have a middle point. This patch either did one or the other. So I'm like, I guess I take everybody nude. That's just the way I'm going to play this game. I remember my kids walking in and being like, Mom, what the hell are you playing? It's like some porno thing or something. I'm like, just the nude patch. It's fine.
It's a good time to play the ignorant mother. I downloaded it from the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's they're just they're naked, I guess. Weird.
Weird.
Super weird. But that was kind of like, that was the last patch. That was probably like 2009 or something. That was the last time I ever downloaded a patch. Ever since then, if either it's been a patch to fix a game or to enhance a game, but to actually change a game instead of a patch, it's been a mod. So that is like the big switch.
Right.
And
well,
then,
how would you personally define the difference between patch and a mod? Because essentially a patch, as you describe it with The Sims, modifies the game. So I guess you would say it's less the fact of modification and more that a mod brings on a menu, like a plethora or whatever of options.
Right. Yeah, and you have to definitely go deeper into the game.
But I'm trying to define it myself. Like I guess with mods nowadays, it's like it generally comes with a mod menu, and there's like a bunch of different things that you can modify, and a patch is just like a hard line. You start the game up and this one thing is going to be different. Is that fair?
Yeah, with a patch you kind of put it in, you start the game, this one thing's going to be different. With a mod, it's kind of like you can add or change game mechanics, graphic, or content. I don't know. Yeah, installation is automatic, and with mods you can turn them on and off. Right. There is that. That's and it's sort of different on the programming side of things, I guess, more than anything. I don't really understand. I just know mods are trickier to implement and take extra programs like Smappy or whatever you're using, and that patches don't. You just literally download the patch. And I think of like a patch is like a Band-Aid and the mod is like, I don't know, physiotherapy. There's like more to it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, customizable. Like you said, you can turn it on and off. That might be a good like foundational difference right there. Where it's not just this hard line. You start the patch you would have to physically remove from the folder to turn it back off. But the mod is more like, you can mess with it in game, and it generally does more than one thing, but not always, but generally. Go ahead. Well, there's I know from modding Gorilla Tag for Strummer that there's something called BP, or I've never said it out loud, BEPIN in Inject or something. And basically, it's like a modding program for Unity. Gorilla Tag is made with Unity, so essentially with this BP Inject, and we've done it with other games that he's gotten into, like Amanda the Adventurer. It's a creepy like VHS aesthetic horror game that he likes, and that was a really fun one actually to mod. But anyway, the point is like there's a mod for Unity, the engine, as opposed to the independent games within Unity. And you can hear by that little that I just did that I'm not entirely confident in this territory of what I'm talking about. But but the point is like I think it's kind of cool, the idea that you can modify Unity on the engine side, and once you have this BP inject thing, it makes it easier to modify anything made with Unity because it works on the engine side of things. So.
Okay, hang on. I think I've got it now. I see. Okay, so a patch would modify typically the exe, DLL, or CFG files. But a mod doesn't necessarily modify core game files, but adds new files that override or expand on them using custom scripts, textures, whatever.
Okay, I like that. Right.
Yeah, more official that way.
Yeah, good explanation. Satisfying conclusion.
I like it. All right. So yeah, otherwise there's some funny ones out there. There's like meme mods. Carl Johnson, he did a GTA San Andreas mod where it's Thomas the Tank Engine in the game. But then Skyrim did a Thomas the Tank Engine mod, and Mattel took legal action against the person who did it in that case. They're just like, no. But I mean, modding has been happening for a while. Even back in like 95 and 96, games like Pets and Creatures, they had the ability to be modded and change. So like even little girls were like, oh my God, I want to get into modding now. Like it was a thing. It's just that was before my time of understanding the concept. Like it was happening way before I was paying attention to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm only aware, I guess this would be a good time of any to interject my two notable mods, besides stuff for my kid, which I doubt is hyper relatable to those listening, unless you have a VR, because there's not many VR games, so they probably recognize those titles. But for me, it's and I mentioned at least one of these two on an episode before, which is you can make Roger's hair blonde, and I am very excited about that mod because it needed to be made. Okay,
it's authentic. Man.
Anybody that's played Space Quest 1 and 2 after playing Space Quest, at least 4, 5, and 6. 3's a little bit of a gray area because he's kind of a strawberry brown. Fragole. That essentially you need to see him blonde for the continuation, for the continuity of the series.
It's true.
It's terribly distracting,
No, it's true.
as I'm sure anyone's experienced. Right. So it's nice that he has that mod. I've lost in the absurdity of what I'm talking about. Why am I here? What are we talking about?
You've already said more than I expected you to say for this whole episode. I am so proud of you right now. You are doing such a good job. Here I was thinking you were just going to be like, oh,
I was excited you were excited. It's good to feel things. It's good to feel feelings.
It is. So we're going to move on, though, unless you have anything else you want to say about mods.
I've got one more thing ever.
Sure.
That I'll ever want to share on this podcast in general. Yeah. On this episode. I know it was in jest, but it felt wrong saying it. I had to correct it.
That's fair.
There is a Guybrush hair mod out there. So if you've ever played Guybrush, this is wild. If you've ever played Monkey Island, the special editions, and you just couldn't get past his Brian Setzer pompadour, then you can download a hair match, because somebody else out there was like, I can't do it.
Can't handle the pompadour.
It's destroying my immersion. Any hopes of enjoying this experience is lost. If that's you, then you can find the Monkey Island hair patch. And as I'm learning live as we speak, there's a Facebook page for it. Facebook.com/Monkey Island hair patch. It's not letting me get to that, so you might just want to Google it. Sometimes it's fun just to do these things to see them be done, as opposed to being like, I needed this. But yeah, that's wild. That is a thing, and it exists.
Thank you.
And if anyone ever was going to download and use it, it would be one of our listeners. So please validate this poor man or woman's life's work by doing that. The end.
Thank you. So, okay, now next I want to talk about cheating, but you know what? As a precursor to cheating, I want to talk about debugging.
If that person is listening, I didn't mean to talk you and say that poor...
Oh my
God. There's like a 30% chance they're listening in this community, so I'm so sorry it was for yucks. Sorry, Anna, continue.
No, it's okay. But yeah, I wanted to talk about cheating, but I have to jump into debugging first because I actually discovered debugging before I discovered cheating in games because I didn't have the internet and I'm not looking around for cheat codes and I didn't know any of that stuff. Like what would I cheat in if I was playing Agent Art of War or Tapper? I don't know. Like I had no game to cheat in or any reason to cheat a game, but I got a copy of Quest for Glory 2, and written in the instruction book was Suck Blue Frog. And I didn't even pay any attention to it. I played the whole game a couple of times, and I'd done other stuff. But then when I came back to it, I was like, hey, why would it even say it in there? So I typed it in, and I found out it was the debugging menu for the game. So you can it's located right in the game code itself. It's not even in any interpreter codes or anything. And then you can just like do anything you want anywhere you want and like go anywhere and set your stats at anything. And I was just all of a sudden you could have the most powerful hero ever to be known on the on Earth. It's so prolific that when ADG Interactive did the remake on Quest for Glory 2, they actually, if you type in Suck Blue Frog, you end up getting a blue frog in your inventory menu, and it makes some comments on it, like it's the rare blue skin desert frog. But yeah, it doesn't actually do anything. But anyways, to activate your debugging code in other Sierra character games, I thought it would be funny to look up the code because Suck Blue Frog is kind of funny. And if you're in Leisure Suit Larry 2 in the first version, if you type Praise Lord, you can enter the debugging menu. In Leisure Suit Larry 3, it's Ascot Backdrop. Okay, nice. In Police Quest 2, Kiss Angel of Death. Makes sense. And in Quest for Glory, it's Razzle Dazzle Root Beer. And in Space Quest 3, you have two choices, Backstage Pass or Pump Shark. And finally, there's no typing in it. But if you're in Leisure Suit Larry 5, you can also bypass all the airport codes and the coffee protection if you can hold Control and Alt and then click this little symbol 5 times that's in your menu. And then it'll bypass all of the copy protection menus and everything. Or you can just hold Control and Alt and click 0 5 times. It'll do the same thing. It's just for the debugging is just there, for example, because whoever was making the game, for example, I think Laura Lee Shannon in King's Quest VII, she was tired of how slow Rosella was always walking. So they put in debug menu commands so that she'd walk faster or she could transport to different places. It just made it quicker and easier for testers and people to do things. There was some little debug things in the Phantom Fellows, essentially. I mean, it was like, if you click on this sign, it'll take you here. It's a quicker way to get there. If you click on this, it'll do that. Yeah. Just little things to make it easier. And people aren't supposed to access these, and they're not even supposed to be able to at all. But usually 9 times out of 10, the programmers just leave these options in the games. And so when you discover them, especially as a kid, it can be rather exciting.
Yeah, exactly right. Some of them get left in the games, I think, just on the low probability that they'll ever be discovered, as opposed to forgotten. I know in one of the rooms in Phantom Fellows, there's a single prong on a fence you can click on, and it's still in the game, just like the trickster and me just left it in there. Like, hey, that'll blow somebody's mind one day when they stumble upon that. It transports them somewhere else, but because it's like the odds of clicking that are almost nothing. But for the Sierra games, I remember discovering this 2015. Shortly after rediscovering and replaying a lot of things, and then thanks to the miracle of the internet, all of a sudden you find SCI Wiki and discover all these amazing debug codes, especially with the SCI Zero games. I guess especially with the parser games, they seem to be particularly fun. You can change the view. I think it was Alt E. It doesn't matter, but I know it was Alt E. That you could change the view of a lot of the SCI Zero games, in the Larry games, and basically switch the characters, or just jump all around the game, transfer to different rooms, like you brought up, or you could, what was it, Shift minus, or Control? I don't know why I would remember this. Much less try to express it on the shift minus. Both shift keys and the minus, I think, did it for SCI. And then maybe it was Alt D for AGI games. I think that's right. But anyway, point being is, yeah, you can still debug almost all of these games on your own. And it's for anybody listening that hasn't, and if you've exhausted yourself through these games and played them enough times, it is a fun way to breathe new life into them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, debuggers. And the other thing that's popular now is object randomizers. They've been talking about it a lot in the Quest for Glory speedrunning. You can throw it in for one of the Quest for Glory games, and all of a sudden, all it does, like, for example, for Quest for Glory 1, it changes all the quest items. And so every item in the game becomes something for another reason for something else. And so it changes up the whole game entirely.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember at one point thinking we should do an episode on debugging, and now I realize why not. Because it's a fun 10-minute segment right now, but it's be a tough entire episode.
That's right.
It would be a lot you should have seen it, man. You should have been there. It's so cool.
Oh, King's Quest IV. This is great because of Roberta's legacy on the game as being a little bit of a hard ass. But in King's Quest IV, the debug mode is overtime, no sleep.
Wow, nice. Subtle.
Subtle. They were hard on them with the Roberta rap and everything in the AGI version. Right. I think they were just like, oh my God, you guys are just, but they rode them hard, but it was worth it. The games that you got out of it. By the way, I apologize for any strange background noises on my side. I have people working in my attic today. So.
Right. It does sound like gentle footsteps above your head, specifically.
Exactly. There's 2 people up in there right now, so it's all right. This is not as bad as a weed whacker going outside or something crazy like that, like you'll get in the summertime from me.
Yeah, the old it could be worse conditioning. I like that.
But yeah, debugging, I mean, it naturally lends itself into cheating. I mean, many people would jump into cheating first because cheating's been around since, I think the very, very first one was the what is it, the Zizzy, right? Yeah, Colossal Cave Adventure did Zizzy, XYZZY, as one of the first known cheats, meaning that you could skip parts of the game, and that's back to 1997. And then you get into like the Z spectrum, they do like poke commands, and poke commands is what is for like debugging and testing and stuff. But then you get into, our computer games and things, and that, I mean, by the time the 2000s were up, cheats were really kind of on the decline. But for games like, unless, well, I don't know. I would say, okay, for Stardew Valley, a game like, you need a cheat, really, especially if you played it your own way. You're going to go in, you're going to type Motherlode or Rosebud, you can end up with all your in-game currency, or the same Grand Theft Auto, you can explode all the cars around the player, which are great. Jetpacks are awesome. So, okay, you've got different kinds of cheats. You've got your built-in cheats. Those are developer cheats. That's what I'm just talking about now, the mother loads, and when you can type in a key and something magical happens in the game. And then you've got like your local file modification, like my kid does it with Terraria. You can modify save files, and then you can grant yourself any item you want, stuff like that. Right. Then you can do like external memory modification. Yeah, modery modifications. But yeah, you can do things like freeze your health and stuff like that. And you can alter memory values within the game. So you're going into the coding and the memory values and just saying, hey, instead of remembering that the health's supposed to be here, you're going to put it at a higher number, right? But that's, and then there's botting, which is automated play. So, for example, in games like RuneScape, you can make it so that it's automatically harvesting or doing things with in-game currency, but you're not actually doing anything for it.
Right.
So it's all pattern recognition behavior. This is all stuff I learned, guys. So I hope you're learning something too here, because I find this kind of interesting. But the next level is hooks. That's game function hijacking, which alters all core mechanics. So it's like reveal enemy positions through walls. And I mean, a lot of this is going deeper into online territory. None of this really matters in a single player game. But when you take it to like the online world of games, some of these cheats can be kind of devastating for other players that are playing properly too. Like even the Grand Theft Auto, you blow up all the cars around you when you're playing by yourself. Okay, but what about when you're playing online, right? It totally changes the context of the cheat, right?
Right, good call.
And last is level 5, direct memory access cheat. So that's a hardware-based cheat, and that bypasses all software protections using a separate device to read the memory externally. So This is very, very much for online. Developers are always tracking it to find cheaters. This is for games where it even matters what you do, or you get money out of it, or Counter-Strike or something like that. So this is like way above our heads, Paul. Yeah, and into concepts that we're not even really understanding. But the true thing is, certainly game developers with the money involved have put a lot of money into anti-cheat software simply because of the online world. None of it matters. Like, why do they give a fuck if we're going to cheat in a single player game? It doesn't make any difference at all.
Well, the only counter to that, which you made me think of when you mentioned the online thing, is DLC, like making sure that you pay for shit. Is another reason why they would be really strict about that. So you wouldn't want to, making sure you couldn't crack their app or whatever. Couldn't. Yeah, I think crack would be the word for it, right? Like you couldn't give yourself the things that they want you to buy.
Yeah, cheats are totally replaced by all in-game purchases and DLCs and all these things. And then you gain them through codes, but then you have to pay for them or earn them, which is why they don't want you having the cheats. Because then you're gonna make the game different for yourself without having to buy more of the game.
Right, you're gonna give yourself what they want you to pay for. Right.
Yeah. Precisely. So, but otherwise, I mean, like my kid uses mods and stuff for Civ, and he does stuff like that. But I don't know. Like to me, cheats and mods and things that change the game are there for you just like a hint book is or a strategy guide is. It's there for you after you've completed the game on your own terms, the way it was meant to be played, the way that people have put it out there to you. Now, maybe if you were never going to play the game in the first place, you throw in some mods, now you like it enough to play it, that's okay. Like, I won't stop you. But for me personally, play the game first, get into it, get all the juice you can out of it, and then cheat it, mod it, patch it, do whatever, debug it, do whatever it is you need to do to make it fun again, and then just go fly with it. Because I think that's the cool part about playing video games.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that was that way with Grand Theft Auto. I've never been into the story side of those games. So I just to get in there and give yourself the jetpack or unlock the cars and the tanks and the weird stuff and have fun in the open world for a couple of days and then never touch it again.
I do that with The Sims now because I've played it so much over so much time that I'll start up a game and I'll randomly give myself just a shitload of money, buy the giantest mansion in town and just mess with the game for a couple of days. And then quit and then don't do it again for a year.
Yeah. Right.
So, but before we wrap up, I just, is there anything else you want to say about any of this?
So did I mention about how you can make Roger's hair blonde? Because
you did.
Because you can make his hair blonde. So
no, that was good. That was good. So I just want to take a moment to give a huge shout out to our amazing True Believer supporters on Patreon. Your $10 a month helps keep us going, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for believing in us. Huge thanks to Gareth, Mike, Mick, Christopher, Brian, Chapman, Jay, Holmes, Mark, Jeffrey, and Tim. You are all absolute legends. Also a big thank you to any of our other Patreon and all of our other Patreon supporters and anyone else who helps the show out in any way, even if it's sharing the podcast, leaving a review, buying a copy of The Phantom Fellows for yourself or your friends, or just hanging out with us each week. You guys are all the best. Thank you for that. And thanks for listening to this episode. Hey, thanks, Paul, for talking during this episode. At first, I was worried you wouldn't, but you actually had things to say that I appreciated. Hey, like the mod for Roger and the
I do get excited about that. Yes.
So, yeah, otherwise, find us on Twitter at CGD Podcast, at The Phantom Fellows. We're also on Blue Sky. You can also jump over to thephantomfellows.com to find out where you can buy the game. And there's different places you can get the game. You can get it on GOG, Steam, Fireflower, Itch. You can also get like a little strategy guide. You can get a walkthrough of the whole thing or just like a little instructional thing. You can get the soundtrack, which is absolutely amazing.
Yes. New news, it's now available on the Mac App Store. So anybody, Mac OS, sorry. You can get it there. And also we will have Phantom Fellow pins or magnets from Canvas Quest. Our good friend Tom at Canvas Quest is going to have some Phantom Fellows pins available pretty soon too. So I'll start linking that when they're available.
And, you've probably linked the shirts underneath the podcast episode. We also have podcast shirts and Phantom Fellows shirts that, if you want to support us and wear it or, that sort of thing, maybe we'll throw that in there.
Please post a picture or DM us a picture because it's just super cool. We've seen a few people wearing them in like different parts of the world. And it's like, wow, there's somebody, in another country wearing our thing. It humanizes the experience, right? It's like super cool.
It is. It's super, super cool. So, send us your words, mail at cggpodcast.com. Find us on Facebook. We're a page. We're a group. We're on Instagram. And we are on YouTube. That's all I have to say.
Don't do murder. What up, fuckers? No, all right, hold on. No, that's not. Okay. Hello, and welcome. No, all right, not that either. Okay.
Well, hello there.
Hey, you guys. Nope, that's a little on the Goonies side there.
It's not as easy as it looks, is it?
I guess not. Jeez. How do you just like start a one-sided conversation with the abstraction of an audience?